So you caught me actually recording videos for my courses. I have a bunch of courses. I've released a couple and I'm still releasing more. But I asked if people had questions, and I have someone who submitted two really good questions. So I'm going to expound on that a little bit right now. Because it's all about Q&A. I don't ever want to get to the point where I'm just talking, and I'm not giving you an opportunity to ask me anything. Okay? So, let me just pull up the questions really quickly. Okay, the first question was, as a young prophet, what steps do you suggest we take to perfect our gifts? And as you know, the prophetic is one of my favorite topics, but I'm just going to dive right in. I wrote some notes so I don't forget anything. But, as a prophet, the unfortunate thing is a lot of times people don't even know they're prophetic. They think they're seeing things, they think they're crazy. But once you know and can kind of discern, or you've done some reading on what the signs are, or how do I know I'm a prophet, once you know that, you should begin reading and studying as much as possible. Not just about the prophets in the Bible, even though you do want to do that too, but you need to understand as much about your gift as possible, right? So if you're a prophet, you should be reading up on the prophetic movements, again, studying the prophets, the main ones and the minor ones, because God used so many prophets and he used them differently, right? We can't think that there's only a single way that God uses prophets. And as you're reading, you take notes so that you can reference those, as you are growing and as you are learning and as you are delving deeper, right? You should also connect with modern day prophets as well. So I'm a prophet. Connect with me. If you are a woman and you are a prophet and you're like, I need to know more, it can help being connected, because I share things. I share things that I experience on the Come Higher playlist. So connect and begin to glean so that you can hear what the Lord is saying to you through the people you're connected to as well, right? And here's the thing, a prophet spends time hearing, gleaning, seeing, and getting activated. So as a prophet, you need to be spending time doing that. Like I said, and I keep saying it over and over again, sometimes I just miss out on major portions of the summer because I want to go higher in God. I'm spending less time doing stuff and more time being with him and hearing what he has to say. I'm not doing it to the level where it's obsessive, but I'm doing it enough so that when the next month comes, I'm not in the same place I was the former month. When a new year comes in, you should be able to sense the growth and the elevation in your life. If you still feel stuck and you feel like you're not growing, you feel stagnant, then it could mean that you're not spending enough time seeking him out one-on-one. Remember, I'm not talking about attending more church services, and I'm not talking about, just being on more prayer calls. I'm talking about individual time with you and God, not just doing an activity like reading, but listening, because prophets have to hear and they have to see. If you look at any of the prophets in the Bible, the Lord spoke to them and he showed them visions. So if that's happening in your life and you begin to spend more time with God, it will increase. If it's not happening in your life, you need to spend time with him until it starts happening and he knows that you're one who will be still and still enough to spend time with him, right? So also books. Books are a great way to grow. James Gall has a lot of books on prophets and the seer realm, right? Also Jennifer LeClaire, she has some books for prophets as well. I think Hakeem Collins, he has books as well. Naeem just released a book about the supernatural realm. We need books like that so we can understand, because when you don't understand, the enemy can enter in with error, and you don't want that. So you need the backing of those who've come before you, or those who God just drops in your spirit. God might just give you a name. There are times that I've just gotten a name in a dream or when I was napping, and then I would look up the person, and they're a real person who wrote a real book, and that was God telling me, you need to read this person's book, right? As a prophet, you never stop learning, you never stop growing. And remember, as you are activated and moving in the prophetic, it's never just all about you. It's for your service and your sphere of influence. So many of you know that there are 7 mountains of influence. That means areas, of life that believers should be influencing. And God gives us specific areas that are our particular niche or area. So the 7 are family, arts, education, media, government, business, and religion. So you ask God, you pray and ask, where have you called me? What is my area of influence? For me, as everyone knows, he's called me to business. My mountain is business and my mountain is media, right? So that's why I'm able to just flow in business, activate people in business, because that's the gifting, the area, the anointed. So when you hear me say I'm anointed for business, I'm not just showing off and being cute. I'm not puffing myself up and being boastful. That's my area of influence. So when you partner with me and you follow the instructions, it makes it easier for you to execute, because that gift is on my life. So people come to me when they want to birth something, whether it's a book, a product, or a service. My area is also media. So media could mean magazines, social media, just being able to influence media. That's why it's so easy for me to grow, on Facebook, on Instagram, and reach people and connect. When I make up my mind, 2 summers ago, I said, I'm going to grow my Facebook fan page, and now it's at 14,000. And then I did the same thing before with Twitter, and I'm doing the same thing now with Instagram. So I make up my mind, I take it to God in prayer, because that's my area. So here's the thing, you have some people that are trying to grow and expand in areas that they're not called to. So you need to know where you're called so you can pray about that. For some of you, God is saying, I've put you in government. I need your voice. I need your prophetic voice to speak concerning what's happening in your city, what's happening in your state, and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, he might call you to run for office. I mean, your sphere of influence as a prophet could be education. So he'll use you, in the colleges or the elementary level. He might download a curriculum to you. And because that's an area of influence for you, that's what God has birthed you to be able to do, favor immediately comes upon that download of new curriculum. So then you get into the school systems with that new curriculum without any pushback, right? Whatever he's called you to champion, whatever God has called you to, he's going to equip you for. Okay? Whatever he's called you to do, and it could be any one of these 7 mountains. For some of us, it's several. So families, he might have you creating a nonprofit to, deal with family issues, domestic violence, or single dads. There's a woman, I don't even remember her name off the top of my head, but her mission in life, and I don't even know if she's a Christian, but her mission in life is to reunite people, specifically men, I believe it's specifically men, with their birth fathers. So she has some kind of connections that begin the healing process for them by reconnecting them with a dad they never knew. Same thing with arts. God can use you in the area of music or, worship and do a new thing through you that's never been seen before. And when it comes easily like that, and when when there's an influx and a push and a thrust of heaven behind it, it's usually because that's your sphere of influence and that's where God wants you, right? And we talked about religion too. He can be calling you to the church. When I say religion, I'm not talking about religious spirit, but I'm talking about what takes place in the churches, right? To introduce the newness of God, the tangible, manifest presence of God, right? So, like I said, you pray and you ask where He's called you, so that you can get in place, right? So, and I've said before, it's critical that prophets see and hear God. So you might not want to move on the other stuff like the mountains until you are hearing God and what He specifically called you to be. I hear people all the time saying, I'm still trying to find myself. I'm still trying to find out what I'm supposed to do. But when you're still and you ask God, He will impart that to you. He will then follow that up with ideas. And as we are obedient, He will begin to reveal more. Some of us, and I used to be the same way too, we want to know it all up front. What am I supposed to do? What does it sound like? What are the measurements? Where's the, the location, the geographical location? But God gives it to us on a need to know basis, right? So I hope I've answered that question. There's a lot to do as a prophet, but it first starts with, being in the cave, so to speak, and spending alone time with God, right? So the second question, I'm just going to answer that, then get back to recording videos for the course. Okay, once an individual is healed from the past, what steps do we take to help others begin their process, right? So I'm going to share this, that it is great. It's an awesome thing to want to help other people be healed, right? But for healing, we have to understand that it's an ongoing process. So we don't have just an encounter with God. Well, we can just have an encounter with God where He heals everything, right? But most of the time, He doesn't do it like that. It's an ongoing process of healing. So there are levels, like peeling an onion. There are levels to our healing. There are things that are afflicting us that we have no idea of. Sometimes God will take His time as He reveals that to us in a dream or a vision or some other kind of discovery, because sometimes we're not equipped emotionally to handle it all, and that's okay, right? So, we can spend years trying to heal also based on how deeply rooted the trauma was. Some of us have mother wounds, father wounds, and those don't just get healed overnight or just from one or two encounters. They take time, because as we live our lives are always reminding us of our mom or dad. So we have to, encounter those memories and say, no, I'm healed. I'm not going back to that place where, I thought of my mom this way or thought of my dad that way. I'm not doing that. And as we begin to live life and move through that process where things don't trigger us and take us back, we are coming into a deeper degree of healing. And as you help other people through, you want to make sure that you are healed, because getting healed is one thing, staying healed is something totally different, and progressing in your healing is totally different. So again, it's good to help people, but we can only help them to the level of revelation that we have. We can't walk them through necessarily beyond where we've been healed, So some people might be gifted for, deliverance from, and I've heard this, even deliverance ministers. So there's some deliverance ministers that can break pornography spirits off of you like that. There are pastors and even, deliverance ministers that can begin to heal the mother wounds and father wounds like that. Why? Because they've done it in their own lives. And what you've overcome, God has now equipped you to break other people through as well. Now, does that mean that you can't break them through other areas that you haven't? It's the same principle. God can show you what to do, and as we are going through the healing process and helping other people heal, that's where hearing God, sensing the Spirit of God is so necessary, because God will whisper, it's not her mother she's mad at, it's her sister, or it's her brother who went off to the service when she was 8 and she felt abandoned by him. Sometimes we think it only has to be our mom or our dad, but that's not it, right? And also, there are various things that we need to be healed from. So like I said, there are things that we know, things that we've experienced that are like trapped in our memory and replay over and over again. And there are things that we don't even know that we need to be delivered from, right? So there's soul wounds, those emotional wounds in our mind, will, and emotion, right? I said mother wounds, father wounds. There are also generational curses that people need to be healed from. And after that, there are altars that have been set up, in certain countries or certain cultures. They have shrines that they actually dedicate their children to, or their grandchildren to, or they promise their souls to these altars to gratify the flesh of what they want now, whether it's success in business, money, a husband, a wife, or that kind of thing. So we need to begin to assess our lives and just ask God to just uncover any hidden thing that we can't readily see, right? There are also vows. Sometimes we make vows. Our family members make vows. We make oaths. People could have taken oaths through different things, sororities, Freemasonries, fraternities, and that kind of thing. And then there are also fragments and altars, like in alter egos. I'll probably teach on that in another video. That's probably more appropriate for the Come Higher series, because it's deeper stuff. It's not like a Christian fundamental. It's deeper. But just to touch on an altar a little bit, some people are so traumatized in their life that they create like altars that break off in them to protect them. So like if you've ever seen the movie Sybil, she had to create all these different altars and personalities to cope with different things. So she had the strong altar that would want to fight and be mad and angry all the time, and then the little girl one that allowed her to be soft and gentle and talk in a whisper. There's so many things for us to be healed from. We need to make sure we're healed and whole, and then make sure God is giving you the okay, because when God is giving you the okay, now you can begin doing deliverance. Now you can begin walking people through healing. That means you have the backing of heaven. We don't want to just, yes, you can share your own experience, but we don't want to just take that experience and say, okay, now I want to teach and heal and set people free. It was a while, it was years of learning about deliverance until God said, okay, you can begin going through sessions with people, and you can begin, just releasing a video or two about it, so that people can get degrees of freedom, and they have, right? So again, once you begin healing, you may not be fully healed. I would spend time healing and staying healed. And once you can remain healed and not keep returning to the things that hurt you in your mind, will, or emotion, and your responses, God will then have given you the evidence that He has matured you to a level where you can lead others through it as well. So it's not just always automatic. Yes, people write books and share testimonies about what they've been through, but in terms of leading other people through, you want to be doing that with Holy Spirit guidance and God saying, yes, it's time to start doing this, because again, all kinds of things can enter when God hasn't sanctioned something. So confusion, error, or, just all kinds of things. It's almost like, and I know I keep using the car analogy. Cars just seem like it fits every category. So it's like, getting in a car. Just because, the key is in the ignition and your foot can hit the pedal doesn't mean that you're legally able to drive a car. You might be 12, you might be 8 or 9. It requires a license to operate a motor vehicle and to carry out deliverance and healing and all that kind of stuff. It requires a type of license in the spirit, and the license with God giving you the okay to do it. You can pray for people all day, every day, but when it comes to getting deeper than that, make sure the Lord has sent you, because then he will back you, right? You don't want to do anything without the backing of heaven. So I pray that's helped a little bit. I just wanted to pop on, and if you have more questions about this or something I said wasn't clear, leave me a comment. I love hearing from you all. Share this video. If you have a group or something where you feel like people will benefit from this teaching, share it with them. Don't keep it to yourself. Share so we can spread the gospel and get some clear, solid teaching for us as kingdom prophets, entrepreneurs, or just kingdom citizens. Amen.